Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autonify podcast. We've got Gareth here, who is a familiar face. Gareth, you want to say hello?
I've,
And then we also have a new member who is joining us today, Alex. Alex, why don't we start off just by introducing yourself a little bit, what your background is, where you're from, what you're doing, and then we can talk a bit more generally, I guess.
Sure. Thanks, James. Great to join you. And Gareth. My name's Alex Hayward. I've been in the software business and particularly the enterprise software business for around 25 years. Most recently, I was at Adobe and had a number of different roles at Adobe, but the last role I was working on was very much around the go-to-market strategy and product marketing for two key suites of products, Creative Cloud and the Document Cloud. For Adobe, I was a serial founder and entrepreneur and startup reprobate, really. And that took me to the US and then back to the UK. I loved my time at Adobe. It was over 11 years, but there was definitely a pull to get back to building something for me and us and James and Gareth and the Autonify opportunity. And we went through the solution. I couldn't be more excited to be part of it.
That's great. I love that introduction. We're also really excited to have you with us, Alex. I mean, one of the things Gareth and I have been talking about before you joined was just how much the landscape has changed now. If you look at, software companies and tech companies in particular, over the past kind of 5 to 10 years, it's really been mostly about the software, I guess, building innovative solutions, speed to market, how quickly can you actually code and everything from it, right? But I'm firmly in the camp now that actually coding has kind of become the easy bit to a certain extent. Like there's little pockets which are really hard, but actually to me, the hardest bit of company building is actually talking to enterprises, talking to organizations, understanding what challenges they have. And then, is that challenge repeatable? Is it something, we can help other organizations with, right? And I think for Gareth and I, we're really, really happy to have you here because I think you're the missing piece in actually helping us work with organizations. We've built lots of great technology, but how do we get that embedded where we're actually solving real business challenges, right?
yeah, I definitely echo that. And an interesting question for you, Alex. Why were you interested in joining Autonify, I guess, from the outset?
I think it's a very good question. I mean, James and I had known each other for a little bit, and I always was impressed by not necessarily the organizations that he was in, but just the approach. And when you and I, Gareth, had our first chat, it was a similar approach, which was, I always struggle with this a little bit. It's the move fast and break things. But in reality, in my quite long experience, that's very easy to say and hard to do. And often it's only seen in a technical space, this idea of, we can code really quickly and stuff like that. But actually, as you kind of said, is what excited me about the opportunity is obviously the tech and obviously technology, but actually the opportunity to actually shake up this category. In many ways, the category that we've found ourselves in, although we're moving around that, has been around for a really long time. And it hasn't been disrupted. And as soon as I see that, I go, loads of friction, tons of opportunity for disruption, and disrupt via tech, but also disrupt via business model. And that I find really exciting. The other reason, which is maybe slightly less interesting, is it must have been 1999, 1998, my first startup. We tried to solve this then. And all through my career, as I keep coming back round, and Adobe was the same. I used to work with customers and see how they were using data and treating data. It hasn't been solved. It really hasn't. In fact, it's got harder and worse as the pressure and the increase in the volume of data and systems and desire for insights and people getting, frankly, better educated about how they can drive their business with data has increased. This problem is just growing and growing and growing. And I know we were chatting earlier on in our weekly sort of stand-up get-together on a Monday. Looking at the TAM now, it's insane. It's growing at 25% a year. It's only 25% at most penetrated. And the vast majority of the market hasn't had access to these tools for a really, really long time. So this whole thing feels there's a lot of pent-up demand that is not because of AI, but will be unlocked by AI, which I think is really, really powerful.
It's interesting. My old CEO, she used to grill me every week when we were building the last company. And she would literally sit down. She would be like, why now? What's changed? What's the opportunity? Why is this important? And I think you've touched on it there, Alex, with the word of the moment, which I guess is AI. But maybe we want to take a bit of a step back. I guess the category we're talking about is data cataloging, right? So why, either of you can answer this, I guess, why has this been kind of, something that's existed for so long? Why is it now only important? And why has it previously failed, I suppose? in these organizations?
Go for it, Gareth.
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to context. In the past, what really excites AI is having context around what it is your business and data does. So traditionally, if you just try and plug in AI chat engine into your organization, you're going to get little to no success because the AI itself doesn't understand, what it is. It doesn't have any contextual information about your business, your data sources, your data sets, and some of these data sets are, huge. We've talked about it previously on a previous podcast that, some organizations have thousands of data sources in just structured databases. And so traditionally, there's data catalogs have been around and they've done a good job at describing the container of the data. So what is this? All this data, what does it contain? And it's very high level. But now what we're seeing move into is more of a metadata approach. So on an individual data source level, what metadata can I get out about the tables, the schemas, the database, but even the column level? And that's what's really exciting for me, is getting that metadata right can really drive benefits to sort of AI.
I think that's right. I think the fascinating thing for me is as we've been getting into this and I've been sort of rushing around talking to my network about what we're doing, the problem hasn't particularly changed. The problem has been, I need to get the information to run my business or do my thing or see it, now. And in fact, as we were kind of saying earlier on, more and more urgently. And that isn't an AI thing, but now everyone are looking at AI and going, is this solution? And then you end up in this kind of negative loop of, but my data isn't right for AI to use it. So it's almost compounded the problem that we already had, and it sort of tripled and doubled it, or quadrupled it even, because people can see there's a solution and the data isn't in the right place. And that's putting pressure on it. There also seems to be in the market a little bit at the minute of a little disassociation between that data problem and the use of AI for it, which is really interesting to me. It's like, I think there's a level of education is, hey, you absolutely should be using AI and there's tons of value and benefit, but you've got to get your house in order first. And we can use AI to do that, and we have tools to do that, and et cetera, et cetera. But you've got to think in those steps. I mean, we all spoke with a potential customer, the CTO, that was going, listen, I know this should be solvable. It should be solvable, but I can't connect those dots. And I think that's the space that people have leapt over a little bit, that it's really interesting to kind of do that education piece for them as well.
I think, I absolutely agree with you both. And I think there's a certain notion here of kind of walk before you can run, right? And the closest kind of analogy I have in my head at the moment is if you think about, hundreds or thousands of people climb Everest every year, right? And I think a little fact that probably not a lot of people know is before they even get to base camp at Everest, where they can start to acclimatize, do their 3 months of training, there's like a week-long trail that people have to go on to even get to base camp, right? And to me, if I think about that analogy and I kind of strip it back, if you think about Everest as kind of, this is the mountain we have to climb, that we're going to get our organization to a state where we're applying AI. Actually, everything before that to kind of get to base camp is, how do I get my organization AI ready? And if I think about AI readiness, core to that is actually understanding data. It's going in there, it's discovering what data exists in my organization. The next level to that is cataloging the data so that at an organizational level, everyone has an awareness of what data exists, how it can be used, and what data represents, what business value can we get out of that. And then we start to move into, okay, now let's make that data available. Let's make sure it's high quality, solve any data quality issues. It's only once you get to that kind of level playing field that actually then you can start to move forward and actually apply AI and be successful with it, right? Because I mean, what we're finding is that there's kind of two camps at the moment, I think. One of them is organizations are very aware of where AI can help, but they don't have the skill sets, they don't have the people to kind of implement it. But the other camp is, we know AI, we know the problems it can solve. We could probably go and get consultancies to come and solve this. But actually, if you don't have that good foundation there of understanding the data quality, you're going to move very slowly, or the likelihood is you're going to end up failing, right? So I think there's very much this notion of AI readiness as well, I suppose, right?
Yeah. And should we touch upon what are the downsides of just jumping to the top of Everest? So you've just got a helicopter and you've just got to base camp really quickly. So what are the dangers of AIs operating blindly? What
Can
do
we
you guys
extend
think?
that analogy? Is it like you just came from the beach with your boardies?
It just yeah.
and you just get on. It's like, oh, it's a bit cold up here.
You haven't got a jacket on.
No, you're wearing your sunglasses and your baseball.
Look, I mean, if I come back to it, you said it at the beginning, Gareth. I think context is king, especially with AI. If you don't give good context, you end up with a lot of hallucinations. And there is a very negative connotation with AI at the moment, especially around, oh, I asked a question, it came back with the wrong thing. Most of the time, it's because it wasn't given enough context or it wasn't given enough guardrails to come back. Context is a fantastic way to make sure you get good answers out of AI, right? I think the other level here is around data quality as well. I did a PhD in machine learning and it was almost drilled into my head, kind of garbage in, garbage out. If you provide bad data into systems, you get bad results, or you get, results with a very low confidence. And actually, the same applies when you're trying to implement AI, right? If you're putting bad data into these systems, actually out the back end, you're probably going to get very poor results, whether that be, workflows, whether that be insights, or whatever is derived from that AI and the output is. So I think catalogs are a fantastic way of solving both of those, and really context is everything. And Alex, I'm sure, as you know, that was a human level problem even before AI kind of introduced.
Yeah, two things occurred to me. We had a chat about unstructured versus structured data and the use of AI and sort of business intelligence tools on top of it. And that idea that, when you've got structured data, you've got no wiggle room for being incorrect. So if hallucinations start to creep in, that's really, really significant. Interestingly, as we were sort of chatting about it the other day, it did occur to me, with unstructured, as in your normal questions to ChatGPT or Claude or something, where you're just looking to ideate, you're sort of okay working on it. You're sort of okay on iterating, kind of working through. But with business data and structured business data, when you're looking for data points, that's definitely not okay. It's got to be absolutely bang on. And so hallucinations would really damage trust in the tool set. So I think that occurs to me quite a lot as I'm talking to people. I think the other thing that I find fascinating is that you talk to some sized companies and data cataloging, you can literally see the visceral shock in them. I don't want 8 months. I don't want 12 months. I don't want all this investment. And then I don't want the ongoing maintenance because it has to, data ages and structures age. So you have to keep on top of it. The big transformation with this also feels like that this is data cataloging for the masses, or democratizing data cataloging, whatever buzzword we kind of want to start to put in there. That has, I don't think that's ever really happened in this space before, where you can access this quickly at a departmental or a smaller organization, or an organization that's been put off by the complexity of doing this in the past.
That's the answer to the why now question, I guess, right?
Yeah.
If you were an enterprise before, you probably were doing some data cataloging. If you were a mid-sized organization or lower, you probably weren't, because there was no real impetus to do it. And now AI is something every organization is having to adapt to. We're a 4-person company. We're doing exactly the same. We're leveraging AI everywhere. And if you're not giving AI good context, you're back to square one. So I think I totally agree with you, Alex. Totally agree.
So Alex, what do you see as some of the sort of benefits to enterprises or mid-level organizations by sort of adopting this ground-up approach to building AI into their organizations?
I think I'm really excited, and having come from a large organization and spent a lot of time with other large organizations who are struggling at an operational level to unlock their data. Really, really basic stuff. Like, I just want to have accurate reporting on a regular basis, or I need to bring different data sources together for this particular product analysis. It showed up everywhere. It showed up in marketing, business ops, product marketing, product development, customer sentiment analysis. There's always a C-level or an SVP or a head of that's usually asking the question to the room, why can't I see this on a regular basis? And like I said, that's not a new challenge, but it's become a more acute challenge, and then some, as people are they have the tools now to fine tune to such a level, but they need the data to make decisions to do the fine tuning. So it's almost more frustrating now, because I have the stuff to do it, and I kind of know what I want to do, but I need the data to back it up. So the opportunity for me is, yes, at that kind of data team level, there is a tool set and an option now to move quickly, which is great because like data projects take forever. But upstream, there's an opportunity for departments, functions, horizontal use cases to get hold of this locally and be able to use this dynamically without having to weigh so heavily on the data team. And I think that, it's the old promise of business intelligence from years ago, but really in the hands of ops teams that are trying to dynamically get information and also have belief in the data and trust what's going on. I think that's the, and I can, as soon as I joined, you saw my joining note, like I pinged a whole ton of people that I'd sat in rooms with who had shouted, where's my data? And this really does start to solve that problem. The nice thing as well about this is, once we've talked about a lot, is once we've got that foundation, the tools to which that you build on top of that foundation become sort of limitless. It's imagination. I mean, we've talked a lot about, people bringing their own agents. Like somebody may want to data catalog their wine business. I like wine, but I don't know much about the business side of it, right? So that team being able to build an agent to sit on top to solve a very specific problem about inventory of wine or something that they need to do, that will work now. It starts to open up the business value of the whole platform.
And again, that's one of those missed markets, right? Even if we take that wine business as an example, they typically wouldn't have had the resources or the funding to be able to afford a platform to be able to do that sort of analysis. But now with AI and the advent of AI, it's making everything possible. You can build real rich business intelligence on top of your AI, using AI. And then the missing connector is always access to the data.
Well, that's it, isn't it? So if I'm this wine, I don't know why we're talking about wine business. It's clear. If I'm the wine business owner, then why would I have created a catalog before, right? I would have had to your point, Alex, hired a team to go and maintain this catalog, to build the systems, to build the point of sale, everything to keep this catalog up to date and maintained and everything from it, right? And now you've got AI coming at it from. So there's kind of two threads, right? You can have AI coming off and maintaining, self-documenting, keeping the catalog up to date, which is fantastic. But then the other side of this is, if I'm the wine owner, now I can have AI going over my catalog, all the context in there. It can identify so many things, right? Immediately, it's going to identify what is my top selling wine by season. What should I be ordering in advance? Predicting patterns, predicting trends, looking at opportunities that I can expand my business in. Like, there's a whole world of attributes out there. You've almost got this kind of professional business intelligence suite at your fingertips that you would have been hiring before, right? And that's just the power of AI with context. And there's a million different examples you can go out from that. I keep coming back to this kind of representation of thinking about the data catalog, the data intelligence layer that we have, like these gaming engines that exist, right? So a lot of people will be familiar with like Unity and other engines. And then you've got all these gaming providers for like PlayStation, PC, whatever. Gareth's probably rolling his eyes that I've just said a load of stuff wrong. You've got all these gaming providers that are coming out and they're building on top of Unity. And that allows them to provide games incredibly quickly and ship them out, right? And actually, if you have a data catalog, you have a data intelligence layer, you can come out and you can build these custom agents on top of your data so quickly. And all of a sudden that just starts driving efficiency across the organization, starts, providing value, it starts providing insights. And it's just amazing the world we live in at the moment, right? I think we're at a really advantageous position here because that's not just your top 2% of organizations who are in the FTSE 100 or the Global 1000, whatever you're tracking. This technology is available to every single organization, whether that be the largest company in the world, Microsoft, Apple, whoever's number one right now, or whether that be your wine street, shop owner on the corner. Everyone is at a level playing field. If you build this foundation, everyone can have access to the same technology. And that's amazing. That's absolutely unbelievable.
It's interesting because if you think about, it's the same thing that we talk a lot about, which is in a world where I can build anything and everything quickly, what should I actually do? Because there is that danger. I mean, it's a danger we talk about. It's like we could just keep building stuff all the time, but is it the right thing for the market? And is it the right thing for the strategy? And we sat in in a room in Battersea and went over strategy just for the next 3 months. Like, what are we actually going to do in the next 3 months? And the continual, I think it's a human trait. It's a positive human trait. We all get excited and we want to do amazing things, but actually the eye on the prize is just solve some simple use cases first. That's kind of what we've taken for our business. But it's also when you think about that small and medium-sized companies going like, where's the biggest bang for my buck on this? Get your data in order, because you can now do that very easily. Create your foundation and then have run some intelligence across it, and you'll get wins within a quarter. And I think that's really exciting, and something that, I think we're going to start talking more about, which is just where are your quick, simple wins? Like because AI in many ways feels a bit like the .com, and I'm old enough to remember the .com, in that there was an awful lot of nonsense running around and unproven value, and this will solve the world, and we'll go through a shake-up. And so for that reason, I think we're being very realistic and careful about the so what. This is kind of like the why now and the so what. Like why should a business use this, and trying to be really clear on that, as we are with our own business.
Yeah, it's super important to consider, isn't it? Yeah, why do we build this? What's the purpose? What's the end value to what we're building? And really, like that, I actually come back to the start of the podcast where we were talking about, Alex, your value and what you bring to the team. Having someone who's not so technical as me and James really, really helps balance that why question, because me and James will build, and we will just build and build and build. And we will ask the question why, but then we will convince ourselves that it's worthwhile. But having someone like yourself with your background, it's just invaluable to us to be able to bounce these things around.
It's mainly because I sit there and say I don't get it.
Yeah, but then we need to try harder to make you get it.
Yeah, that's the good friction. That's kind of what I think. That's what it's good, because what we're also doing is we're pushing. I always go back to, there was a guy. He was the head of innovation at Disney, and firstly, I want the job of being a head of innovation at Disney. That's incredible. But he said in his meetings, he never allowed no buts. He always allowed yes ands, and that's something that we've definitely taken into our company. Is like, we're going to be expansive. Yes and, but we'll do it this way, and yes and. If you sort of approach everything with that, then you'll find your way to the end value that we're looking for. But you include everybody's process within that, including all the technical stuff that you guys are building.
Doing a good job. Don't worry.
Right. On that note, it's probably a good wrap up, isn't it? We've gone full circle. So let's end it there, I guess. Right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank
Absolute
you, Alex.
Pleasure. Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Alex.